The last three signs of the zodiac, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, are the scenes where a lot of the astrology for Aquarius season, but also for 2022 as a year, are unfolding. So my approach to astrology is that the signs and the planets are descriptions of body states and that we all experience them. And we experience them differently depending on the houses or the planets, right? The placements that we have in relation to those signs, but we all have access to these signs. And the energetics of these signs work through the collective as well as the individual and the relational. So I'm just going to offer some ideas about what these signs are, okay? And I'm going to invite you to just attune how you attune. And as you attune, know that it's incomplete, what I'm stating. So whatever you're associating and whatever's coming up for you, that's also part of it. So take note of what you're associating with and what's arising. Also, whatever I'm stating is coming through my body, right? So as I'm describing some of these states, they might not land for you exactly. And my language also might not always land for you. And so when you hear them, really work with your own interpretation. Okay, that's part of this practice and how we can embody astrology together. What I want to encourage is also a somatic scholarship, right? So as I'm offering words and descriptions, please feel them, imagine them, right? And notice what's coming up in your body as I'm talking. That's just as important as what information your brain is making from the words that I'm giving. We're going to start with Capricorn. Capricorn is an earth sign. And I'm going to go through a chart example after this and talk a little bit about how to think about these signs in your chart. But if you happen to know where they are right now, think about that too. But let's just really tune in right now with Capricorn as an archetypal energy. Okay? Does everybody know what an archetype is? That word. An archetype is on the level of myth, right? So when we say something like a mothering energy, right? A parental energy, that's an archetype. It's kind of a collection of ideas that are cultural and historic and mythic. They don't really necessarily refer to people who are mothers, because anybody can be mothering, right? So including people who have children, but it's not just about that particular relational dynamic. It's an energetic. So think about Capricorn like that. Capricorn is an archetypal energy. So Capricorn is an earth sign. It has to do with the earth element, and the earth element is the realm of the material. Anything that is tangible, anything that is manifest or conceivable, right? What can we bring into shape? Capricorn has to do with old earth, with earth that grows slowly over time, with material that grows slowly over time. And therefore, with the conditions and the processes of formation that material goes through. Think about have you guys seen diagrams of the earth underneath its crust? All of this kind of liquid earth moving around underneath the hard crust of the earth. Do you know what I'm talking about? These currents, right? So think about Capricorn as the way that hotter, more liquid earth rises to the surface and cools and then takes shape in the material reality on earth, in the terrestrial reality where we all are existing together. So we can think about mountains and we can think about geographies or land masses with Capricorn, the shape of the material conditions. We know that these conditions have changed over the course of Earth's history. We can also think about the conditions and formation in the material world of the human, right? So what exists in the material world now in 2022 in terms of how nations have been developed, architectures, methods of transportation, economics and industries, governments, things like that. because the material conditions of our world have everything to do with the material conditions of our bodies. Yeah? And so when we think about social location, this is huge, right? The fact that I'm born into a pale-skinned body from ancestors who fled and migrated from Eastern and Western Europe, that took part in colonial expansion, right? And that were also persecuted and surviving. That has everything to do with the way that my body is going to form and what kind of resources it might have access to, or belief systems, where my ancestors came in and how they took part and participated in shaping material conditions brings me to a certain place. Yeah? So take a moment for yourself and just think about that for a second. Like, the material conditions of your particular body. Yeah, what do you know about how these conditions are arising right now and continue to be emerging? Because you're not dead yet, right? We've still got a ways to go. We continue to form. And as we form, we shape reality. Yeah? Reality is shaped around us all the time from the past. What has been built is shaping us, and then we participate with shaping the future. So this is part of how Capricorn functions. It functions through traditions, through iterations of material effort, through repetition and duration. It also functions through survival, right? What survives? What gets to make a shape? It functions through structures of dominance and oppression. What gets to last, what gets to be built when it comes to certain structures and institutions within the world, when it comes to history books, things like that. Okay, so some key words for thinking about Capricorn are historic, has to do with the past. Also hardship. Being alive on Earth is not easy. It is simply not, right? It doesn't matter on some level. Some people's lives are way easier than the others, right? Let's be real about that. Some people have it very easy and some people have it very hard. But no matter who you are, it's hard to be alive. Okay, it's hard to be alive. Just the aging of your body, just the fact that you're going to lose people and things that you love, that you will experience suffering, right? This is hardship. And what happens through hardship? Resilience, survival, coping mechanisms, right? Ideas about right and wrong. So rules, rules would be one thing that happen, right? If you want to survive, you better do this. When we think about the structures of the world and who gets to create those structures, what does it mean to survive within those structures? What does it mean to be successful? So ambition is another word for Capricorn. And when we have ambition and rules and survival, then we also have pressures. There are restrictions. There are also commitments, right? What are we committed to? Especially if we're thinking about survival and resilience. There's such beautiful traditions of survival and resilience, such beautiful legacies within our ancestries. Dedication, tenacity, perseverance. These are all keywords for Capricorn. So you embody all of those keywords and more. Okay, so now let's take a moment and kind of imagine into an embodiment of Capricorn. And what I'd like you to do right now is just stop looking at the screen, put down your writing or something like that, and just feel your posture and don't change it. Okay, so don't try to get in a good posture, quote unquote good posture. Just feel like where you are right now. Okay, notice the weight in your pelvis. Notice if it's more to the front or the back. Notice if it's more to the left or the right. Feel how your pelvis supports your spine and feel the compression and areas of openness or closure or twist or slouch in your spine. And then feel how your ribs are positioned because of how your spine is positioned, and your shoulders and your arms and your head and your neck. Now imagine you're adding weight on top of your head, like a 50-pound weight is now dropping on top of your head, and let that move through your body. Okay? Feel how that would move through your body if you didn't do anything to resist it. Where would the breaking points be? Where would the bracing points be? Is this making sense? Okay. Now resist the weight on the top of your head. How do you have to resist it? You have to push up into it. How do you have to push up into it? You have to reach down into what's below you. Okay, so feel strength and resilience. Feel posture. Okay, so that's one way we might think about Capricorn in the body, is weight, gravity. Okay, we know that our bodies are affected by a lot. We have genetic conditions as well as emotional and psychological conditions that shape our postures. And then we have all the things that we do, like exercising and yoga or sitting and looking at a computer for a gazillion hours a day or whatever. Our habits over time will shape our bodies. That's an analogy and metaphor on like many levels. And then there's the weight of life that's going to get dropped on all of us, right? And it will take shape in our bodies. We will have to find ways to hold our posture, right? To strengthen, to resist, to integrate, to support. All right, so what is Aquarius? Aquarius comes after Capricorn. Aquarius is an air sign, and the air element in its entirety is dealing with what is shared, right? So the air is shared. We inhale and exhale, as we experienced in our centering meditation at the beginning, right? Everything that we're breathing in is everybody else's exhale. And breath is constantly in motion. It's constantly in cyclical, circular time. What is shared on breath are words, right? Gestures, the modes of communication and information that travel through the air element as a symbolic element have to do with the distribution of information, right? How do we share information? So Aquarius is associated with a large scale or systems-wide sharing of information. And in the body, Aquarius relates to the circulation, the circulatory system, and the connective tissues. And so when we did that breathing meditation, right, and we felt the continuity of the heart, the lungs, the arteries, and the veins, that's the polarity of Leo and Aquarius working together. So all of the signs and their polarities complement each other. Leo rules the heart, and also the spinal cord, okay, the meninges and the central space of the spinal cord. And then Aquarius rules the circulation, right, the circulatory system, which moves the blood and the air out through the body, the connective tissues of the veins and the arteries. The connective tissues of the fascia is something that I associate Aquarius to. And then the nervous system as a whole, okay, not the individual firing of neurons or synapses, but the nervous system as a whole. And the nervous system as a whole, first of all, is both receptive and active, okay? So you have sensory nerves and motor nerves. Your nervous system receives information from your environment and then has some kind of output. Your nervous system exists everywhere in your body, and your nervous system is both inner and outer. So we have what's called the autonomic nervous system, and this is the part of your body that the nerves, right, the sentience that innervate your organs. Your heart beats, your lungs are working, your guts are digesting because neural impulses are telling them what to do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? You don't have to think about that stuff. What do you have to think about? You have to think about what's around you. Oh my gosh, is there a car over there? What's Renee saying on the computer screen? Oh, shoot, I'm hungry. What does my cat need? Right? Like, you've got information coming out, coming into you from many different directions. You also, when you receive information, are receiving information through the lens of your nervous system, because your nervous system governs all of your sensory organs, right? Your organs of perception, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, places where you get information. And every single impression you have received in your entire life has been recorded in your nervous system. That's how the nervous system works. And the earliest impressions that you received, well, I should say that every impression you receive fires and wires some neurons, right? It goes through some kind of pathway in the nervous system. And so the earliest impressions that you received as your nervous system was developing, these impressions go the deepest. Yeah? And then from there, your nervous system continues to get built through repetition, right? And this is why, as a species, right? As a species, we have learned to survive in certain ways. When humans are born, we go through very similar patterning around learning to crawl and walk, right? This is a development of a nervous system of a species. And then each of us, because we're coming out of Capricorn, right? We come from different genealogies and ancestries, different social locations, different experiences in our material conditions. Each of us has a nervous system shaped by our ancestry, right? We learn to respond in our nervous systems to the world by the ways that our caregivers respond, and our early environments shape us. And then over our lifetimes, what we experience in repetition, nerves that fire together wire together, right? And so if we experience something again and again and again, it builds neural networks. Yeah, this is familiar at this point to a lot of us, right? Because this is more and more scientists and psychologists and trauma workers are talking about this kind of thing. So with Aquarius, what we have is distribution of information through a whole system and the way that systems work together. Okay, so we could be thinking about the systems in the body, right? The nervous system and the circulatory system working together. We could be thinking about human systems, right? So families, institutional systems, social systems, social orders, you know, the ways that larger nervous systems get built. You can think about the cultural nervous system, the body of the friend group that you have, the body of the country that you reside in, the nervous system of the world right now, right? We can take the idea of the nervous system and expand it, or what's the word I'm looking for? Like use it in a micro or macro, wherever. And what we're thinking about here is that there is both a kind of decentralized periphery and energy moving from points out into these different nodes, right? Little heartbeats, little pulses, moving out, moving back in. Okay, so when we're working with Aquarius, we're working with patterning of systems, or you might think about the mind. every impression is a record. Okay, the central nervous system builds intelligence, tone, awareness, and patterns through repetition, through shock and trauma. The nervous system also develops through the sensation of newness. Do you guys know this experience when you learn something new, right? And you feel awake and enlivened. And you might be learning something new in a moment of pressure, and it's like, oh, shit. Fuck, right? Lesson. Or you might be learning something new in a moment of expansion, like, wow, oh my God, right? And then you've got a new neural network. Ooh, it's so exciting. And many of us know the feeling of having that initial excitement about something and then going back and looking for it again and being like, ah, it's not as exciting this time, right? That's the nervous system getting used to something. Okay, so in terms of Aquarius in the world, systems, but also the people, the many, right? This is one image that comes through with Aquarius a lot, is the people. So if we think about Leo and sometimes its relationship to royalty, or some kind of metaphor for royalty, like a president, or I don't know, the astrologer in the group chat that you're in right now, right? Wherever the central focus is going, then Aquarius is in the people that are gathered there, right? In the audience, in the populace, in the body politic, etc. And then we're thinking about wiring in the people and also pathways, right? The nervous system works in pathways. So what are the pathways in the people? What are the avenues of distribution and information, dissemination of energy? Okay, so let's move our eyes away from the screen and shake your body out for a second. And then let your eyes move around the room until you find something to see that you can have a thought about. Go ahead and look at something that either brings up a memory for you or some kind of association or question. Then just look at that thing. Okay, and then as you're looking at it, notice your posture. Where's the weight in your pelvis? How's gravity moving through your body? Okay, let the thought that you're having intensify a little bit. So turn the dial up on the volume of that thought. And what I'd like you to notice right now is try to notice your nervous system. Where is your attention? As you're noticing this object, whatever it is, where are your eyes? Are they pulling your head? Your brain and your spinal cord, right, are the posture of your head to your spine. Don't change anything, just feel it. Feel how you're breathing. Okay. Notice if your breath is shallow or deep. If you intensify the thought, does anything happen to your breath? How is information circulating through your body right now as you're in this particular thought? Is sensation gathering somewhere in your hands, in your back? Have you spaced out and gone somewhere else? Okay, and then let it go. Stretch out. Okay, so Pisces. Pisces as a body system. In a somatic approach to astrology and an embodied approach, we can think about Pisces as the endocrine system. Okay, so the endocrine system has to do with your hormones. Your hormones are a fluid system in your body. They're chemical messengers, and your glands secrete them. Okay, so your hormones come from your glands. Your pituitary gland has a secretion. Your hypothalamus has a secretion. Your pineal gland has a secretion. Okay, ovaries, testicles, thyroids. Okay, these are all glands that have secretions. And those secretions are chemical messengers. And your endocrine system governs a lot of the autonomic functions with your nervous system, and that's your neuroendocrine system. So for example, your rest and digest rhythm, your circadian rhythm, your sleepfulness and wakefulness, right? That is both chemical and nervous system. When you're falling asleep at night, your pineal gland starts to secrete hormone that helps you drift off into dreamland. All of your body's metabolic processes are governed by your endocrine system. Your metabolism of food, your energy, your circulation, your sex drive, processes of aging and maturation, all endocrine related. Now, endocrine also has a lot to do with mood and how you feel internally. And so if you imagine a time when you felt very sexually aroused, right? Your sex organs secrete hormones. Has anybody had the experience of like a new love, like new relationship energy? When you basically go completely bonkers, right? And you're like, I don't need to eat. I don't need to sleep. All I need to do is be obsessed with you, right? You're just happy, maybe happy and anxious at the same time. I don't know, maybe you can't poop, right? Like things happen to your body, right? In that new relationship energy. It's because you're on drugs, right? Your body is on its own drugs. When we experience stress in the body, right, there's chemical messengers for stress. And everybody knows this state because we're all alive right now and we're living through a global pandemic, and there are the conditions of the world as they are. And people experience states of stress in varying degrees because some people's lives are a lot easier than others. But we also all come from families that survived somehow. Right? If we're here today, we come from ancestors who survived somehow, which means that we come from people who have been traumatized, and we've also come from people who've learned to be resilient, to resist, to celebrate, right? Within our becoming, there are particular endocrine states that are very familiar. Yeah? So where you came from in terms of your upbringing, your family patterning, and then all of the experiences you've had in your life that have shaped your nervous system and the material conditions of your body have also produced a chemical response for you. Yeah, a lot of us know the experience of chemical burnout, right? Stress burnout, chronic fatigue, other kinds of regulatory and metabolic issues coming up in the body because of endocrine burnout. One of the ways that we can help regulate the endocrine system in the body, right, is to be in states that help stimulate the glands that produce healing hormones. Yeah, our feel-good hormones, our dopamine, our serotonin, our oxytocin. What helps regulate feel-good hormones are feelings of love, gratitude, connection, peacefulness, right? When we're in our hearts and we have a good feeling, a feeling of well-being, it's actually good for us, right? It's good for our health. When we feel safe in the world and when we feel generous with others, it produces wonderful states of health for ourselves. And then that state of health has a nervous system effect, right? Our nervous systems become more regulated. And then the materials of our bodies become more easeful and loving and less jumpy, less scared, less prone to violence. This then contributes to the state of the world, right? To the state of the environment around us. So when we're thinking about Pisces, we're working with the water element. And Pisces is a mutable sign. It's water that spreads around and changes and shifts. And in the symbolic language of astrology, the water element is referring to the emotions, right? And with Pisces, we're holding disperse emotion, collective emotion, this sentiment and emotionality that spreads and is shared. So if I'm in a state of hypervigilance and stress, and I come into your home, how are you going to feel, right? If I'm unaware of my surroundings, if I feel rushed, if I feel agitated, are you going to feel welcoming of me in your home in that moment? Probably depends on how well we know each other, if there's trust. If I come into your home and I'm like pretty relaxed and I'm having a good day and I'm in my heart and I'm so happy to see you and I brought you some tea, right, and some flowers that I picked up on the way, how is that going to feel? Right, for your receptivity, right? So our body states, our nervous system states are in connection with each other all the time. And through our shared connection, we produce environment, right? Then the space between us becomes palpable for others. So if you and I are then together and we're sharing a sweet space, right? And then your kid comes in, they're going to feel that differently than if you and I are together and we're tense. Right? Because we know that children really pick up on the nervous system of the room, of the space. We all do, but those of us who have lived longer have developed more numbing mechanisms, right? More coping strategies sometimes. Okay, so when we're thinking of Pisces, and I do want to say that next month we're going to do a longer exploration of Pisces in the Pisces season workshop. And then also in April, there's going to be a big conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces on April 12th. And I'm working right now with my friend Ramon to put together a sequence of offerings that in the week leading up to it. And I know that the one I'll do is a longer embodiment practice through the endocrine system. So if you're interested in really working with your glands, check that out. And I'm excited for that week. We'll be doing a lot. Of all kinds of things. But anyway, when we're working with Pisces, we can think about the endocrine system, right? And Pisces' relationship to Aquarius as the neuroendocrine. We can think about the inner sea and the chemical messengers that regulate our autonomic rhythms and mood. We can also think about the shared space and the shared fluids in our world, right? Literally the oceans, the waters, the rains, and then the shared emotional space. A lot of folks in Black studies talk about climate in the sense of the psychological and emotional climate of the world in the wake of slavery, right? The world in a climate of anti-Blackness. Like, what does that mean to breathe in the air, right, of this particular kind of place? Yeah, so think about sentiment and collective emotion with Pisces. Okay, so we'll shake our bodies out again. And then look around your space and let your eyes find something else to notice. Look for something with a story. Okay? Look for something that you are going to associate something with, a memory, a story, a feeling. Okay, and then focus on it. And notice your posture and your attention right now, Capricorn and Aquarius. Like, what's the shape of your body as you focus? What happens with your eyes? Do you have an expression on your face as you focus? Don't change anything, notice it. Where is your body's weight? Okay, so let's just take a moment here as we're noticing our posture and our attention. And let's bring a hand back to the heart. Just continuing to pay attention to whatever you're paying attention to, continuing to notice the story, the posture. But now can you feel the relationship of your hand and your heart? Let's breathe into that relationship. And I want to invite you here, and I know that this can be a challenge sometimes for all of us, but I want to invite you here to extend compassion and love and appreciation towards yourself. Okay, so as you feel your relationship to your hand, to your heart, can you breathe in with appreciation for the effort it took that brought you here? Can you breathe with appreciation for the nature of your spirit that is seeking growth? And then you might just call into mind and into heart a feeling of yourself as a very young and tender and precious being. Just honoring, holding space for the part of you that is vulnerable, that is trying, that is absolutely worthy of love unconditionally. Okay. And now I just want you to notice, has anything shifted in your attention, in your posture, or in the way you feel your posture? Notice if you can hold a sense of compassion and connection to yourself as you re-engage with this story, with this memory or relationship to the object that you're seeing. Is there anything about the association that changes? Okay, and then letting that melt, letting that dissolve.